Commander Kate Warren stood on the bridge of the Earth diplomatic vessel Handshake her eyes fixed on the massive alien ships that floated in the darkness of space before them. The vessels of the Zorvan hegemony were unlike anything humans had built, sleek, curved shapes that seemed to absorb the starlight rather than reflect it. "Final systems check," Kate said, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. This was humanity's first official contact with an advanced alien civilization. Everything had to go perfectly. "Communications ready," said Lisa Howard from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. "Translation software is online and functioning. Engines on standby," Joe Martins reported from engineering. "Life support and all ship systems green." Lieutenant Paul Griffin checked the tactical display one last time. "Defense systems are passive. As ordered. We're showing our good faith." Kate nodded. The Handshake had been designed and named for this very purpose, to extend humanity's greeting to the stars. For years, the Zorvan had been observed at the edges of our solar system. After decades of sending signals, they had finally responded, agreeing to this meeting in neutral space. "Open the channel, Lisa," Kate ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a being with pale blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes. The alien's mouth formed words that the computer translated with only a slight delay. "Commander Warren of Earth, I am Overseer Krelthar of the Zorvan hegemony. We acknowledge your presence." Kate stepped forward, her practiced words coming easily. "Overseer Krelthar, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we extend greetings and friendship. This meeting marks a historic moment for both our peoples." The alien's expression didn't change, at least not in any way human eyes could recognize. A long pause followed, during which Kate maintained her diplomatic smile. Something felt wrong. Paul's voice cut through the silence, suddenly urgent. "Commander, energy spikes across all Zorvan vessels." Before Kate could respond, the ship rocked violently. Red emergency lights flooded the bridge as alarms blared. "We're under attack," Paul shouted, his hands flying across the tactical console. Multiple direct hits, shields failing. Kate gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered again. On the screen, Overseer Krelthar watched impassively. "Why?" Kate demanded. "We came in peace." The alien's response chilled everyone on the bridge. "Peace is irrelevant. Your species has been classified as aberrant. You will be cleansed." The transmission cut off as another blast hit the Handshake. "Engine core breach imminent." Joe's voice came through broken static. "We have minutes at most." Kate made her decision instantly. Abandon ship. All hands to escape pods. The bridge crew rushed to follow her orders, but another explosion rocked the ship, collapsing part of the ceiling. Paul pulled an injured Lisa from her station as Joe worked to keep the remaining systems online. "Primary escape routes blocked," Joe reported grimly. "Only the aft pod on Deck C is still accessible." "Get everyone there," Kate ordered. She helped Paul support Lisa as they made their way through smoke-filled corridors. Twice they had to find alternate routes as explosions sealed off passages. At the last escape pod, Kate counted only 7 survivors from her crew of 30. As they loaded in, the ship's computer announced that core collapse was seconds away. "Get in, Commander," Paul shouted, reaching out his hand. Kate shoved a wounded crew member into Paul's arms instead. "Take this data packet," she said, pressing a small device into his hand. "Earth needs to know what happened here." Before Paul could protest, Kate sealed the pod door and hit the launch control. The small craft shot away from the dying Handshake, just as another Zorvan beam sliced through the ship's midsection. Inside the cramped pod, Paul watched through the viewport as the Handshake exploded in a brief bright flare that quickly died in the vacuum of space. Commander Warren was gone, along with most of their crew. "What do we do now?" Lisa asked, holding a bandage to her bleeding forehead. Paul looked at the data packet in his hand, then at the vast emptiness of space around them. The Zorvan ships were already moving away, apparently satisfied with their work. "We survive," he said. "We get this information back to Earth. And then," he paused, looking at the shrinking dots of the alien vessels, "then we make them regret this day." The lifepod drifted silently through the void of space. Inside, the survivors of the Handshake worked desperately to stay alive. Lieutenant Paul Griffin checked their life support systems for the third time that hour. 10 days, he said quietly. "Maybe 11 if we ration the oxygen." Lisa Howard nodded weakly from her makeshift bed. Her head wound had stopped bleeding, but she remained pale. Joe Martinez sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by pieces of equipment he had pulled from the pod's walls. "What are you doing?" Paul asked. "Trying to boost our distress signal," Joe replied without looking up. "Standard emergency beacons won't reach Earth from this distance." Paul stared out the small viewport at the endless stars. Commander Warren's final order echoed in his mind. Earth needs to know what happened here. He pulled out the data packet she had given him. "Lisa, can you help me with this?" he asked. "We need to see what the commander thought was so important." Lisa slowly sat up and took the device. Her fingers, still skilled despite her injury, activated the small screen. "It's the sensor logs from the Handshake, she said, and analysis of the Zorvan weapons and shields." "Can we send this with the distress signal?" Paul asked, looking at Joe. Joe considered for a moment. "Maybe, if I can boost the signal enough." For the next 2 days, they worked in shifts. Joe rebuilt the transmitter using parts from their emergency rations heater and medical equipment. Lisa compressed the data and prepared the transmission. Paul kept watch and tended to the injured. On the 3rd day, Joe connected the final wire. "This is it," he said. "One shot. The power surge will fry what's left of our systems." "Will it reach Earth?" Lisa asked. "It has to," Paul replied. Joe activated the makeshift transmitter. The lights in the pod dimmed as power was diverted. The device hummed, then sparked. A moment later, the pod went dark except for emergency lighting. "Did it work?" Paul asked. "No way to know," Joe said, slumping against the wall in exhaustion. On the 7th day, their sensors detected something approaching. Paul peered through the viewport and felt his heart sink. The ship had the unmistakable design of a Zorvan scout vessel. "They found us," he said grimly. Lisa struggled to sit up. "They can't get the data." Joe moved to the pod's control panel. "There's a self-destruct sequence. It's meant for preventing capture." Paul looked at his 2 remaining crew members. No words were needed. They all understood what had to be done. "I'll activate it," Paul said, his hand hovering over the control. "It's been an honor serving with you both." Lisa smiled weakly. "For Earth. For the Handshake, Joe added. As the Zorvan ship moved to intercept, Paul entered the code. Millions of miles away on Earth, Admiral Frank Daniels was awakened by an urgent call. He hurried to the command center where Intelligence Officer Amy Rodriguez waited. "Sir, we've received a partial transmission," she said, her face grave. "It's from the Handshake mission." Frank's heart raced. The diplomatic vessel had gone silent 3 weeks ago. "Show me." Amy played the fragmented message. Lieutenant Griffin's face appeared, distorted and breaking up. "Attacked without warning. Commander Warren. Sacrifice yourself. Zorvan ships. Aliens called us aberrant. Need to prepare." The transmission contained bursts of data between the broken words. Amy pulled up the analysis on another screen. "Sir, they sent us detailed scans of the Zorvan weapons and defense systems," she said. "And there's more. We've decoded some of their communication. The Zorvan referred to humans as a species that must be cleansed before they can expand further into space." Frank stared at the screen, at the last images of the doomed crew. "Any sign of survivors?" Amy shook her head. "The transmission ends with a massive energy spike. We believe they were discovered and self-destructed to prevent capture. Frank stood silently for a long moment, then turned to the communications officer. Send out the alert. Priority Alpha. All military commands. All Earth governments. Authorization code. Guardian Protocol. The officer's eyes widened. Sir, that's the... I know what it is, Frank said firmly. And pray we're ready for what's coming. Get me a channel to Mars Command immediately. As the command center erupted into action, Frank looked one last time at the frozen image of Lieutenant Griffin. We won't let your sacrifice be in vain, he whispered. Deep beneath the red surface of Mars, Admiral Frank Daniels stood in a massive underground chamber that few people on Earth knew existed. Around him stretched rows of warships, their metal hulls gleaming under the harsh lights. Engineers and crew members moved with purpose, preparing the vessels for deployment. How long have we been building these? Asked Amy Rodriguez, her eyes wide as she took in the scale of the operation. 20 years, Frank replied. After the Nevada incident, world leaders agreed we needed to prepare. The public was told we were expanding scientific outposts on Mars and the outer moons. In reality, we were building this. Amy nodded slowly. In 2085, an alien scout ship had crashed in Nevada. The technology recovered had advanced human science by decades, but it also brought a chilling realization. Earth was not alone, and not everyone out there was friendly. The Guardian Protocol was designed for exactly this scenario. Frank continued as they walked between the ships. Hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. A fleet that could be mobilized quickly if needed. A voice came over the communication system. All ship captains report to Central Command. Repeat, all ship captains report to Central Command. In the command center, Frank addressed the gathered officers. Men and women in uniform stood at attention, their faces solemn. The moment we feared has arrived. Frank said, the Zorvan have made their intentions clear. They see us as a threat to be eliminated. Our diplomatic vessel was destroyed without provocation. We must assume an invasion force is on its way. He pressed a button, and a holographic display showed the solar system. Our scout ships near Neptune have detected multiple objects entering the system. Size and speed match what we know of Zorvan vessels. Frank looked at each person in the room. Effective immediately, I am authorizing the activation of all Guardian Protocol forces. The code phrase is remember the asterisk, handshake asterisk. You all know your assignments. Dismissed. As the officers file out, Frank turned to Amy. Send the activation signal to our outer system units. In the Kuiper Belt, far beyond Neptune's orbit, Captain Greg Nelson received the message aboard his battle carrier, the asterisk Vengeance asterisk. His ship had been on patrol for 6 months, disguised as a mining vessel. Signal from Mars Command. His communications officer reported. Priority Alpha. Message reads, remember the asterisk, handshake asterisk. Guardian Protocol activated. Greg felt a chill run down his spine. The moment they had trained for had arrived. Sound General Quarters. Bring all weapon systems online. Contact our sister ships in the region. The asterisk Vengeance asterisk hummed to life as hidden weapon ports opened along its hull. Throughout the Kuiper Belt, 11 other ships did the same. Back on Mars, scientists Olivia Carter and Sam Mitchell worked frantically in a laboratory deep underground. Spread across their workstations were components based on the alien technology from Nevada. The shield modulation is holding at 90% efficiency, Olivia said, checking the readings on her screen. Sam adjusted a control. If the Zorvan weapons are anything like what was in the asterisk, handshake asterisk data, this should give our ships a fighting chance. How long to deploy the new shields to the fleet? Olivia asked. The Mars division can be fitted within 48 hours, Sam replied. The Jupiter and Saturn bases will take longer. Olivia nodded. Let's hope we have time. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden forces prepared for war. On Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, missile silos opened beneath the frozen surface. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, stealth fighters launched from concealed hangars. Near Venus, a network of automated defense platforms activated, their sensors searching for approaching enemies. In Earth orbit, military satellites quietly changed position, revealing weapons that had been disguised as scientific instruments. Ground-based laser arrays, officially listed as astronomical observatories, powered up their targeting systems. 20 years of secret preparation were coming to fruition. Humanity had hoped these defenses would never be needed. Now they were the thin line between Earth and extinction. Admiral Frank Daniels watched the activity from Mars Command. "Send the message to all Guardian Protocol forces," he ordered. "The Zorvan believe they're attacking the helpless world. Let's show them how wrong they are." The Zorvan invasion fleet moved past Neptune's orbit with confidence. Supreme Overseer Krelthar stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the holographic display of the solar system. His large, multifaceted eyes reflected the blue light of Earth, their target. "Status report," he ordered. "We have detected primitive defense satellites around the third and fourth planets," his second-in-command replied. "Nothing that poses a threat to our vessels. As expected, the humans have limited space capability." Krelthar made a sound that served as laughter among his kind. "Proceed as planned. First, we take their outer colonies on the fourth planet. Then we strike their homeworld." The Zorvan fleet continued forward, unaware that they were being watched. In the rings of Saturn, Captain Greg Nelson's Vengeance lay hidden among the ice and rock fragments. Two other Earth ships, the Defiance and the Judgment floated nearby, their hulls modified to appear as natural satellites. "Zorvan fleet has passed Neptune," Greg's sensor officer reported. 36 vessels confirmed. "They're on a direct course toward Mars." Greg nodded, just as Admiral Daniels predicted. He opened a channel to the other ships. "This is Nelson. Execute Operation Slingshot on my mark." The 3 human ships powered up their engines silently. Greg watched the countdown on his screen. 3, 2, 1, mark. The Earth ships burst from their hiding places, accelerating rapidly. They used Saturn's gravity to sling themselves toward the Zorvan fleet from behind. On board the lead Zorvan dreadnought, an alarm sounded. "Supreme Overseer, we detect 3 objects approaching rapidly from Sector 7. Before Krelthar could respond, the first missiles hit. The Vengeance fired a spread of EMP warheads designed based on the data from the Handshake. One of the Zorvan ships went dark, its systems overloaded. "Return fire," Krelthar ordered, his calm demeanor breaking. "What vessels are these?" "They are not on our intelligence reports." The Zorvan ships turned to face the attack, but the Earth vessels were already executing a complex evasive pattern. They darted between the alien ships, firing precisely at weak points identified in the Handshake data. Lieutenant Maria Ramirez piloted her stealth fighter from the launch bay of the Judgment 5 other fighters followed her into the battle. "Remember your training," she said to her squadron. "Hit and run. Don't stay in one place long enough for them to target you." Maria accelerated toward a Zorvan cruiser. Her fighter was tiny compared to the alien vessel, but that made her harder to hit. She dived along the ship's hull, launching precision strikes at its engine section. The Zorvan cruiser's shields flickered as her weapons found their mark. Maria pulled up sharply, narrowly avoiding the ship's defensive fire. As she came around for another pass, she saw that other fighters had joined the attack, targeting the same section. "Keep pressing," she ordered. "Their shield frequency is fluctuating." On her final approach, Maria fired her remaining missiles directly at the weakened shield section. The barrier collapsed, and her weapons struck the hull beneath. A chain reaction spread through the Zorvan ship as its power core destabilized. Maria pulled away as the cruiser broke apart. She had just become the first human to destroy an alien capital ship in combat. On the Vengeance Greg watched the battle unfold. "Status report." 3 enemy vessels disabled or destroyed. His tactical officer replied, "No casualties on our side yet." Greg nodded, but he knew their surprise advantage wouldn't last. Continue the attack. Focus on their command vessels, then prepare to jump to the fallback position. The battle raged for another 30 minutes. When it ended, the Earth ships vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving behind 6 destroyed or disabled Zorvan vessels. On his command ship, Supreme Overseer Krelthar stared at the damage report in disbelief. How is this possible? Their technology is primitive. They have barely reached their own moon. His second-in-command approached cautiously. Supreme Overseer, we have analyzed the attack pattern. These were not primitive vessels. They used tactics that suggest extensive combat training. Krelthar turned to the holographic display of the solar system, his eyes narrowing. It seems we have underestimated these humans. Send a message to the hegemony. Request reinforcements. He looked at Earth's image again. This changes nothing. We will still cleanse this system. It will simply require more resources than anticipated. The red dust of Mars swirled in the thin atmosphere as Zorvan ships entered orbit. Their scanners swept the surface, searching for the small research bases they expected to find. Instead, they detected something much more concerning. Supreme Overseer, reported a Zorvan officer, we are detecting massive energy signatures beneath the planet's surface. These readings do not match the intelligence reports. Krelthar moved to the scanning station. Explain. These are not small scientific outposts, the officer said. There appears to be extensive underground infrastructure. And the energy readings suggest weapons. As if confirming his words, the surface of Mars seemed to crack open. Hidden doors in the red soil slid aside, revealing missile silos and defense platforms. Within seconds, the Martian defenses opened fire. Colonel Pete Mason watched from the underground command center as the first volley launched. After 20 years serving at the secret Mars base, the moment had finally come. All batteries firing, reported his weapons officer. First impacts in 30 seconds. Pete nodded. Continue firing. Focus on their troop carriers. We need to prevent a ground assault. The Zorvan fleets scattered as Martian missiles struck their formation. 3 smaller ships exploded immediately, caught by surprise. The larger vessels activated their shields, but the continuous barrage forced them to maintain defensive positions rather than begin their planned attack. They didn't expect this, Pete said to his second-in-command. They thought Mars was barely inhabited. How long can we hold them off? She asked. Pete checked the ammunition counters. Long enough for Earth to prepare its main fleet. That's our job. Back on Earth, Dr. Olivia Carter rushed into Admiral Daniels' office at Earth Defense Command. Her normally tidy lab coat was wrinkled, and excitement shone in her eyes. Admiral, we've done it, she said breathlessly. The breakthrough we needed. Frank looked up from his battle plans. Explain, Doctor. The Zorvan ships use a specific energy frequency to power their shields, Olivia said. We've discovered that a targeted electromagnetic pulse at exactly the right wavelength can disrupt their entire power system. How quickly can we weaponize this? Sam is already working on it. We can retrofit our main fleet ships within 48 hours. Frank stood up. Make it 24. Mars is buying us time, but they can't hold forever. In the engineering bay of the lunar shipyards, Sam Mitchell supervised as teams installed the new EMP weapons on Earth's capital ships. The work continued nonstop, crews changing shifts while the installation proceeded. Will it work? Asked a young engineer. Sam patted the device they were mounting on a missile. If Dr. Carter's calculations are correct, these will cut through Zorvan shields like they're not even there. On the other side of the moon, hidden from both Earth and the approaching enemy, Admiral Daniels oversaw the gathering of humanity's main fleet. Ship after ship arrived from hidden bases throughout the solar system, forming the largest armada humans had ever assembled. Status report, Frank ordered as he entered the command center on the lunar base. 147 vessels assembled so far, replied his aide. Another 35 expected within 12 hours. Frank nodded, studying the tactical display. The scattered human forces were executing a complex ballet, using the planets and moons for cover as they converged behind the moon. And Mars. Still holding, sir. Colonel Mason reports heavy fighting, but their underground fortifications are intact. The Zorvan haven't been able to land troops. Frank watched as another group of ships appeared on the display, arriving from Saturn. Tell all commanders. Final briefing in 6 hours. The Zorvan think they're winning a battle of attrition on Mars. They don't realize they're being lured into position. On Mars, Pete Mason felt the whole base shake as another Zorvan bombardment hit the surface. His forces had held for 3 days now, much longer than expected. The Zorvan had committed more and more ships to the Mars attack, frustrated by the unexpected resistance. Sir, Admiral Daniels is on secure channel. A communications officer called out. Pete moved to the screen where Frank's face appeared. Colonel, how much longer can you hold? Pete glanced at the damage reports. Another day, maybe 2. Frank nodded. That's all we need. The main fleet is assembled. When we attack, the Zorvan will be caught between our forces. Hold as long as you can. Yes, sir, Pete replied. Mars will not fall easily. A massive portal opened at the edge of the solar system. Through it came 50 more Zorvan warships, their hulls gleaming with strange blue lights. Supreme Overseer Krelfar watched them arrive from the bridge of his command vessel. With these reinforcements, we will crush the human resistance once and for all, he said to his officers. Begin the final assault on their Mars colony. Then we move to their homeworld. The Zorvan fleet regrouped, now nearly 80 ships strong. They moved toward Mars in tight formation, confident in their superior numbers. Behind Earth's moon, Admiral Frank Daniels addressed the commanders of humanity's fleet. Their faces appeared on screens around him, men and women responsible for nearly 200 warships. The moment has arrived, Frank said. The Zorvan believe they have the upper hand. They think Mars is our last line of defense before Earth. They don't know about us. He paused, looking at each face. Today we show them what happens when you attack humanity. Captain Greg Nelson stood on the bridge of the Vengeance *, now equipped with the new EMP weapons. His crew worked quietly, preparing for battle. All ships report ready, Captain, his first officer said. Greg nodded. Prepare to move on the Admiral's signal. Throughout the fleet, fighters prepared for launch. Lieutenant Maria Ramirez checked her ship's systems one final time. The new EMP missiles were loaded and ready. Squadron leaders, report in, she called over the radio. One by one, her pilots confirmed they were ready. 24 fighters, the best pilots humanity had to offer. On the command ship, Frank watched as the Zorvan fleet moved into position around Mars. The Red Planet's defenses still fired, but were clearly weakening after days of constant battle. Colonel Mason, status, Frank asked over the secure channel. Pete's tired face appeared on screen. Dust and smoke filled the background. We're on our last legs, Admiral. Main power failing. Secondary defenses at 30%. Hold for 15 more minutes, Colonel. Help is coming. Frank turned to his communications officer. Send the signal. All ships, execute Operation Moonfall. Behind the moon, the Earth fleet began to move. Like a silent wave, they emerged from the lunar shadow, engines burning bright, as they accelerated toward Mars. The Vengeance led one wing, with 3 other capital ships commanding their own formations. On the Zorvan command ship, an alarm sounded. A junior officer rushed to Krelfar. Supreme Overseer. Multiple contacts detected behind Earth's moon. How many? Krelfar demanded. The officer's voice faltered. Nearly 200 vessels, sir. They appear to be warships. Impossible. Krelfar moved to the sensor display. Where did they come from? Before anyone could answer, the Earth fleet opened fire. The new EMP weapons hit the Zorvan formation, and ship after ship lost power, their shields collapsing. Captain Greg Nelson watched from the Vengeance as their first volley struck home. All ships pressed the attack. Focus on their command vessels. Maria led her fighter squadron through the disabled Zorvan ships. Target engines and weapons. Don't give them time to recover. The Earth fleet executed a perfect pincer movement, catching the Zorvan between their forces and the remaining Mars defenses. Colonel Pete Mason watched from his damaged command center as human ships appeared above. All remaining batteries, fire at will, he ordered. Support our fleet. On his command ship, Krelthar watched in growing horror as his fleet was torn apart. Half his ships were already disabled by the strange human weapons that somehow bypassed their shields. Order a retreat, he finally said. We must regroup. His second-in-command hesitated. Supreme Overseer, the humans, they're not just defending. They're pursuing our retreating vessels. Krelthar watched the tactical display. It was true. The human ships were not content to drive them away. They were hunting down every Zorvan vessel, disabled or fleeing. Communications Officer Ryan Peterson worked frantically on the bridge of the Vengeance intercepting and decoding Zorvan transmissions. Captain, he called to Greg, I'm picking up their communications. They're afraid. Listen to this. He played the translated audio. Unknown human capabilities. Weapons we cannot defend against. Request immediate evacuation. Greg looked at the battle display. For the first time since the conflict began, the Zorvan were running away. Continue the pursuit, he ordered. Don't let their command ships escape. Today, we show them what it means to provoke humanity. 2 days after the great battle near Mars, Captain Greg Nelson stood in a large hangar aboard the Vengeance. Before him floated a captured Zorvan command ship, held in place by gravity beams. Engineers worked around it, studying the alien technology. How did we manage to take it intact? Asked Admiral Daniels, who had just arrived from Earth. Lieutenant Ramirez, Greg said with pride. She led a boarding party after our EMP weapons disabled their systems. They fought their way to the bridge and captured the crew. Frank nodded appreciatively. Where are the prisoners? This way, sir. They walked to a secure section of the ship. Inside a specially designed holding area sat 3 Zorvan. Their blue skin looked pale under the human lighting. One of them was clearly of higher rank, with elaborate markings on his uniform. This is Sub-Commander Xelkar, Greg explained. He's been surprisingly cooperative. Frank approached the force field separating them from the aliens. Why would you help us? Xelkar stood up. He was taller than a human, with long limbs and those strange multifaceted eyes. Because my people have been deceived, he said in halting English, learned over the past 2 days. Explain, Frank demanded. The Zorvan are not the true power, Xelkar said. We are servants, soldiers for the Dominion. Greg and Frank exchanged glances. What Dominion? Greg asked. The true rulers of this part of the galaxy, Xelkar replied. They control many species. They told us humans were dangerous, that you would destroy us if you became spacefaring. They ordered us to eliminate your kind before you could spread. Frank's eyes narrowed. Why would they see us as such a threat? Your genetics, Xelkar said. The Dominion uses biological weapons to control subject species. Your kind has natural immunity to these controls. You are the only species they have found with this trait. It frightens them. In another part of the ship, Dr. Olivia Carter and Communications Officer Ryan Peterson worked together to access the Zorvan ship's database. If what this Xelkar says is true, there should be records in their system, Olivia said, her fingers moving across an adapted interface. Ryan nodded. Their language structure is becoming clearer to me. Look at this section. These appear to be command directives from a higher authority. They worked for hours, piecing together the truth. When they finally succeeded, they called for Admiral Daniels immediately. Olivia's face was grim as she showed Frank the translated documents. It's all true, Admiral. The Zorvan are just foot soldiers. This Dominion has been controlling dozens of species, keeping them subservient through biological agents that affect their neurochemistry. And we're immune? Frank asked. According to their data, yes, Ryan replied. Something in our genetic makeup makes their control methods ineffective on humans. That's why they wanted us eliminated before we could spread beyond our solar system. Olivia added. They saw us as a contaminant. Frank studied the star map they had extracted from the alien database. How many worlds are under their control? At least 37 inhabited systems, Ryan said. Most of the species aren't even aware they're being manipulated. Frank was quiet for a long moment. Can we access their communication network? We believe so, Olivia said. We've identified their relay system. Then I want to send them a message, Frank said. And I want every subjugated world to hear it too. With Selkar's reluctant help, they accessed the Dominion's communication network. It took 3 days of work, but finally they were ready. Frank stood before a camera, with the captured Zorvan ship visible behind him. My name is Admiral Frank Daniels of Earth, he began. To the rulers of the so-called Dominion, hear me clearly. You sent your servants to destroy us. They failed. We now know who you are and what you have done to the free peoples of this galaxy. He paused, his voice growing stronger. Know this, humanity will not fall. We are coming for those who sought our extinction, and we offer alliance to all those you have enslaved. Your dominion ends today. The message was sent, broadcasting across the vast network to every world under Dominion control. For the first time in millennia, the masters of the galaxy felt fear. Supreme Overseer Krelthar stood before the Dominion High Council, his normally blue skin pale with fear. The 7 members of the council looked down at him from their raised platform, their faces hidden behind ornate masks. You have failed, the first voice said. The sound echoed in the vast chamber. The humans were to be eliminated. Instead, they have defeated our forces and captured one of our command vessels. The intelligence was flawed, Krelthar said, trying to keep his voice steady. They had technology we did not expect. Hidden fleets our scouts never detected. Excuses, the third voice hissed. Your failure has exposed us to the galaxy. The humans have broadcast their defiance using our own network. The 7th voice, rarely heard in council meetings, spoke. Show him. A holographic display appeared before Krelthar. It showed real-time data from across the Dominion. On 7 different worlds, subject species were in open revolt. They had heard the human message. They had seen that the masters could be defeated. This is your legacy, Overseer, the first voice said. Centuries of control, now crumbling because you underestimated one species. We will send the main fleet, Krelthar said desperately. We will crush Earth and end this rebellion. It is too late, the second voice replied. Our sensors have detected human ships already entering the territories of our subject worlds. They are sharing their immunity technology with the Fractions and the Venturi. The control agents no longer affect them. Krelthar felt his heart sink. What are your orders? Retreat, the first voice commanded. Gather all remaining forces and return to the home systems. We must prepare for a war unlike any we have fought before. As Krelthar left the chamber, a junior officer approached with a datapad. Supreme Overseer, we have completed the analysis of human military capacity as you requested. Krelthar took the pad and froze as he read the information. This cannot be correct. It has been verified, sir, the officer said. The forces they deployed against us represent only 20% of their total military capacity. The shipyards we detected on Mars and in their outer system are producing more vessels every day. Krelthar looked at the final section of the report. The humans had already sent diplomatic missions to 5 subject worlds. They were offering alliance, sharing technology that could break the Dominion's biological control. And they were sending a fleet directly toward the Dominion's core worlds. For the first time in his long life, Krelthar felt true fear. On Earth, Admiral Frank Daniels stood on the bridge of the newly completed flagship Retribution *. It was the largest vessel humans had ever built, constructed in the hidden shipyards of Europa. Through the viewport, he could see hundreds of ships gathered from across the solar system. "Admiral, all ship captains report ready," said his aide. Frank nodded. "Put me through to the fleet." The communications officer gave him a signal, and Frank began to speak. His voice reached every ship, every captain, every crew member. "Men and women of Earth, today we begin a journey unlike any in human history. We have defended our home. Now we take the fight to those who sought our extinction." He paused, looking at the assembled fleet. "But this is no longer just our fight. Across the galaxy, other species have lived as slaves to the Dominion for centuries. We have shown them that freedom is possible. We have given them hope. Now we will give them victory." Frank turned to his navigation officer. "Set course for the Fraxian homeworld. Our new allies are waiting." Throughout the vast fleet, engines flared to life. Ship after ship entered the jump points, vanishing in flashes of light as they began their journey to distant stars. In his quarters on a Dominion monitoring station, Krelfar watched the human fleet depart. He composed his final report to the High Council with trembling hands. "We have not merely awakened a sleeping giant. We have provoked an armada unlike any the Dominion has faced. The humans do not fight merely to survive. They fight to liberate." As he sent the message, Krelfar knew that the Dominion's days of absolute power were ending. The humans were coming, and with them, revolution would sweep the galaxy. The moment had passed when aliens realized they had provoked the wrong armada. Now came the time for them to face the consequences.